I'm a mom of three. My oldest is 6, 5, and then I have a 7-month-old. I'm from California, been in Colorado 5, 6 years. Once I turned 18, I met my husband. We got married, and a couple months later, I found out I was pregnant. And my son, he was planned. My oldest was planned, completely planned. We were expecting it. We were trying for a couple months, so I knew it was gonna happen. And then once I had him, I was like, I want more kids. I want more. Now that I have my son, I want more kids. The next one, we weren't ready for another kid. I wasn't expecting to have another baby, but at the same time, we weren't being careful. And we were just starting over from our marriage. So we were separated and trying to start over, reconnect back to get us back to where we were before we separated. I knew myself I was pregnant. Just something told me that I was just my body was different. Something was going on. So I knew I was pregnant. And I finally took a pregnancy test and I showed him, and we sat on the couch and we were like, what are we going to do? Like my son, my oldest was 6 months, 5, 6 months. So we were like, we just got back together. How we're just gonna add another baby and we don't know if we're even gonna make it at this point. It was hard on him and myself because abortion was an option. So it was stressful, it was hard for me trying to make a decision. And I know he wasn't pressuring me, but he wanted to know before the pregnancy got further along. And we both decided, okay, let's go to Planned Parenthood, and we actually went to Planned Parenthood and sat there. And that feeling of being there, it was hard, really hard. I didn't know what to do. They didn't have any appointments, so they couldn't get me in, but we were there, I believe it was an hour, and something inside me was like, don't do it, just don't do it. And I got up, and I didn't tell him. I got up and walked out. As I was walking out, they had called my name to go in the back. So with that time, when I walked out, something told me, just whatever happens, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. And then I told my husband, I'm like, I'm not comfortable with getting an abortion. That's just not something that I want right now. And my pregnancy was hard. It was difficult for both of us because we were both on different terms on what we wanted as far as the baby. And that all changed when she came. She came, and my husband just fell in love with her. That's his only girl, so he adored her. And we're 5 years later, and she's our we call her our spicy girl, because her attitude. And I think looking back, I'm happy that I didn't have an abortion, because I wouldn't have my daughter. During that second pregnancy it was hard on me and my husband. But then with my third, I wasn't ready for another baby. I had just started working. My hours at work were going great. I was doing good at work. My husband was doing good at work. We were in a good space, comfortably with just two. Me and my husband were having some issues, marriage-wise, and we weren't ready for another baby. He was something that wasn't planned at all. And I found out 4th of July when I was pregnant, and I didn't tell my husband till 2-3 days later. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do, who to tell. What do I do? So I called my mom, and she was like, it was very faint line. So she's like, you're not pregnant, you're fine. But then as the days went on, it got darker. The pregnancy test on the lines got darker and darker. I was like, okay, I'm pregnant. I didn't know. I was still in shock days later. So I ended up going to my doctor, and they took blood work within a couple days, and my levels were rising. My HCG levels were rising. So that really made it real that I was pregnant. And even with him, I didn't tell my husband, I didn't tell anybody, but I had went to Planned Parenthood again by myself. And I was set on, I'm gonna have an abortion. We can't afford another baby. We don't there's just it's not possible right now. But being in that chair, I just was looking at I had my phone on my lap, so I had my picture of my older two on my phone, and I seen was looking at them, and I'm like, in my head I was like, another baby wouldn't hurt. But then seeing it, I know after looking at that picture, I was set on, I don't want an abortion. So I went back to the house, and I was just in my upstairs office, just kind of thinking of what I really wanted to do. And I called my mom again, and I told her, and she just told me, she's like, just do what you feel in your heart is best, and what you feel like you want to do, whether he's there or not. And that's when I decided I want to keep the baby. I kept him, and I told my husband, I was like, I'm keeping the baby, and I don't know what your thought is about it. And I know he didn't want another baby. He was set on, no, I don't want another one. We don't need another one. And what set in that I was actually going to keep the baby was, we were in the car, and my doctor called me, and they were like, yeah, your HCG levels are rising. We'll set up an 8-week appointment. And they were on speaker, and that's when he looked at me, and he's like, you're keeping the baby. I'm like, yeah, that's my choice. And he's like, it's your body, it's your choice. He's like, you know how I feel about it, but if you want to keep the baby, then we're going to be in this together and do it together. And he was there throughout. I mean, he was working, but he was still supportive and making sure that the baby was okay, because I had a lot of preterm labor issues. I was always in the hospital, and he would rush out of work and come straight to the hospital no matter what time it was. So him being there, showing that, I knew he was finally okay with having another baby. So we have a schedule. My older two are finally in school. My oldest, he's in kindergarten. My second oldest is in preschool. So it's all getting back into a schedule where it all works for my husband, for me, for the kids. We've planned months ahead on financially on where we want to be. So that was the main issue with my third. So we're comfortable now. We're happy. I didn't know what love really was before, and having my three, the compassion that they have, they see me as this superwoman. So seeing that makes everything that I've been through worth it in the end. It's seeing their little faces and waking up and hearing them mommy, and that's the big end result for me, is them being happy and me being mom. Don't listen to other people's opinion. They're not going to go through the struggles and the heartache and the disappointment of what you're going to have to feel. So in the end, just follow your heart, no matter what anybody says, honestly.